I remember that night like it was burned into my skull. Emily was standing by the bedroom mirror, adjusting her dress. Tight, short, the kind she hadn't worn in years. She had this impatient look on her face, like even my presence in the room annoyed her. I reached for her waist just instinctively, the way I always did when she was getting ready to go out. But the second my hand brushed her skin, she jerked away like I'd slapped her. "Don't touch me. I can't stand you." The words hit like a bullet. I just stood there, staring at her reflection in the mirror. Her eyes flickered for a second, like maybe she'd gone too far. But then she flipped her hair over her shoulder and grabbed her purse. "I'm going out. Don't wait up." And just like that, she was gone. That was the moment I knew something was wrong. Really wrong. For months, Emily had been different. Colder. Less interested in me. Always too tired. Always turning away from my touch. I chalked it up to stress, to work, to routine. But that night, that wasn't stress. That wasn't exhaustion. That was hatred. And the way she said it, like I disgusted her, lit something inside me. I needed to know what the hell was going on. I grabbed my phone, my heart pounding, and opened her Instagram. She barely posted anymore, but I checked her tagged photos. Nothing suspicious. Then I went through her texts on our shared iPad. Still nothing. But then, in my gut, I knew. Her location. Emily and I had shared our locations for years, mostly for safety reasons. She never turned hers off. I pulled it up and saw the little dot. She wasn't at a restaurant. She wasn't at a bar. She was in some random house across town. My hands were shaking as I grabbed my keys and drove. My mind raced. Maybe it was a friend's place. Maybe there was some explanation. Maybe, no, the way she said it. "I can't stand you." She wasn't at some friend's house. She was with him. I killed my headlights when I pulled up in front of the house. Some overpriced, modern-looking place. A black sports car was parked out front. Not hers. Not mine. I clenched the steering wheel so hard my knuckles cracked. I should have left. Driven away. Saved myself the humiliation. But I didn't. Instead, I got out of the car and walked up to the door. And that's when I saw it. Through the massive floor-to-ceiling windows, there she was. Emily. My wife. Wrapped around another man. My heart slammed against my ribs as I watched them. The way she was laughing, touching his face. The way she kissed him like she hadn't kissed me in years. The worst part? She looked happy. Happier than she ever was with me. I should have stormed in. Made a scene. But I didn't. I just stood there, frozen, watching the woman I built my life around destroy everything in a matter of seconds. And the whole time there was only one thought in my head. She doesn't love me anymore. She probably hasn't for a long time. I don't know how long I stood there, staring through that damn window like an idiot. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might break my ribs. My wife, my Emily, was tangled up with some guy I'd never seen before. Some guy who looked like he had everything I didn't. She kissed him like she meant it, like she hadn't been repulsed 5 minutes ago when I tried to touch her. I swallowed the lump in my throat, my hands clenching into fists at my sides. My first instinct was to kick the door down, grab him by the throat, make him regret ever touching her. But then Emily's voice drifted through the window. A laugh, a soft, flirty giggle I hadn't heard in years. And then, I swear, he's so pathetic. My stomach twisted. She was talking about me. She was laughing with him about me. Everything inside me went ice cold. I turned away, barely remembering to breathe as I walked back to my car. My mind was blank, my body moving on autopilot. I didn't even start the engine at first. Just sat there in the darkness, gripping the wheel so tight my fingers ached. Emily, the woman I married. The woman I thought I'd grow old with. She was done with me. And worse, she despised me. I wanted to scream, to break something, to wake up from whatever nightmare this was. But it wasn't a nightmare. It was real. I don't even remember driving home. I only remember the feeling in my chest. A hollow, sick kind of pain, like something had been ripped out of me. When I walked inside, our house felt different. The same walls, the same furniture, but everything felt like a lie. I went into our bedroom, sat on the edge of the bed, and stared at the floor. My mind replayed her voice over and over. He's so pathetic. That was how she saw me. And the worst part? I had no idea when it happened. When did I become nothing to her? When did she stop loving me? I should have seen it. I should have known. But I didn't. And now I had to decide what the hell to do next. The door slammed downstairs. Footsteps. The click of heels on the hardwood floor. Emily was home. I stayed where I was, sitting on the edge of the bed. My hands clasped together so tight my knuckles turned white. My heart was still hammering, but my face? Stone cold. I listened as she moved through the house. No rush, no guilt. Like she didn't just walk through the door from another man's bed. She stepped into the bedroom, tossing her purse onto the dresser. Why are you still up? I didn't answer, just looked at her. Really looked at her. Her hair was a little messier, her lipstick slightly faded, the faintest hint of a smirk still on her lips. She knew. She knew she could come home and lie to my face, and she thought I'd just sit here like an idiot and accept it. I swallowed back the rage bubbling in my chest. Where were you? She scoffed, rolling her eyes. I told you, out with friends. I clenched my jaw. Friends, huh? She grabbed her makeup wipes, turning toward the mirror like this was just another night. Jesus! What's with the interrogation? I stood up, slow and deliberate. Do I look stupid to you? That got her attention. Her hand froze, the makeup wipe halfway to her cheek. She met my eyes in the mirror, her expression unreadable. Then a smirk, like she was amused by all this. Like I was some sad little man desperate for her validation. You're being dramatic, she said, shaking her head. I went out, had some drinks, came home. End of story. I stepped closer, close enough to see the flicker of something behind her gaze. You went to a house, I said evenly, across town, with a man, in a black car. For the first time, her expression cracked. Her fingers tensed around the makeup wipe. A split second of hesitation. And then, she laughed, like this was funny. Oh my God, she said, shaking her head. Are you tracking me? Jesus, you are pathetic. There it was again. That word. Pathetic. My blood turned to fire. Say that again. She turned to face me fully now, arms crossed, the smirk still on her lips. I said, you're pathetic. What, you think I don't see the way you grovel for my attention? The way you get all quiet when I ignore you? You're like a lost puppy. And honestly, it's embarrassing. I felt my hands curl into fists at my sides. She wasn't even denying it. She was mocking me. How long? I asked, my voice low. She let out an exaggerated sigh. Does it matter? Yes. Yes, it mattered. Because every single month, every single year of our marriage that I thought was real was a lie. She rolled her eyes again. God, you were so sensitive. I lost interest, okay? It happens. Maybe if you weren't so, this wouldn't have happened. I exhaled slowly, trying to keep my head from exploding. So it's my fault? She shrugged, turning back to the mirror. If the shoe fits. My jaw clenched so tight it ached. You could have just left. Another scoff. And do what? Move into a tiny apartment and start all over? No thanks. There it was. The truth. She never planned to leave. She just wanted to have her fun while keeping my life, my stability, my money. The realization hit me like a freight train. This woman didn't love me. She used me. And the worst part? I let her. Something inside me snapped. Not in the way you'd think, not in rage, not in some dramatic outburst. It was quieter than that. I just let go. Let go of the idea that she was the woman I married. Let go of the years I spent thinking we were building something real. Let go of the stupid, blind loyalty I had to someone who never deserved it. She was still standing in front of the mirror, casually wiping off her makeup like this was nothing. And maybe, to her, it was. I watched her for a long moment, letting the silence stretch. She didn't even seem to notice. Then, finally, I spoke. Calm, cold, final. You're right. She arched a brow in the mirror, turning slightly. What? You're right, I repeated. I was pathetic. She blinked, like she wasn't expecting that. Okay. I let out a small laugh. Tasted bitter in my mouth. You know what's funny? She sighed dramatically. Oh great, here we go. I cut her off. You think you're so damn smart. You think you played me. Her smirk started to creep back. I mean, she tilted her head mockingly. Didn't I? I smiled. A real smile this time, because she had no idea what was coming. I walked past her, over to the dresser, and grabbed her phone. Her face twisted. What the hell do you think you're doing? I turned the screen toward her. Let's see what your little boyfriend thinks when he finds out you're not as single as you pretend to be. For the first time tonight, panic flashed across her face. Give me my phone. No. Her nostrils flared. She stepped forward, reaching for it, but I pulled back. I tapped the screen and started typing. She lunged for me. I said give it to me. Too late. I hit send. Message delivered. To him. Every disgusting, filthy thing she ever said to me about him. About us. Every little lie she told him, too. She snatched the phone from my hands, eyes darting across the screen. You son of a... I laughed. Actually laughed. Her hands were shaking. She clicked the messages open, her breath coming fast. And then, before she could even start typing an excuse, his reply came through. A single word. What? Followed by, who the hell are you? My grin widened. Wait. He doesn't even know your real name, does he? Emily's face turned white. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. So, you're not just a cheating liar. You're a lying liar. She looked like she wanted to kill me. Get out, she hissed. I tilted my head. Oh, I'm leaving. But you? You've got a fun night ahead, sweetheart. I grabbed my keys, my wallet, and turned toward the door. But before I left, I glanced back. You played me for a fool, I said. But the game's over, and you lost. Then I walked out, leaving her standing there. Phone in hand, face frozen in shock, her entire perfect little lie crumbling around her. I walked out of that house and didn't look back. The second I stepped outside, the cold air hit me, but I barely felt it. My hands were steady. My mind was clear. For the first time in months, maybe years, I wasn't drowning in confusion. Emily was exactly who she showed me she was tonight. A liar, a manipulator, a user. And me? I was done. I got in my car, started the engine, and just drove. No destination in mind, just away. Away from her, away from the life I thought I had, away from every stupid moment I wasted thinking she loved me. Somewhere down the road, my phone buzzed. Once, twice, then a full-on explosion of notifications. I glanced at the screen. Emily, 23 missed calls. Then a text. You're making a huge mistake. I let out a short, humorless laugh. The audacity. A few seconds later, another one. You're going to regret this. No, sweetheart. I regret not seeing through you sooner. I tossed the phone onto the passenger seat and kept driving. An hour passed. Then two. My thoughts kept circling the same thing. How did I not see it before? Had she always been like this? Or did I just let her become this way because I kept giving and giving while she just took? I pulled into an empty parking lot, killed the engine and sat in silence. And then, like a delayed reaction, it hit me all at once. The rage, the betrayal, the humiliation. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my fingers ached. Everything inside me wanted to punch something, break something, scream until my throat bled. But none of it would change a damn thing. Emily was a lost cause. And I had two choices. Let her keep destroying me, or let this be the day I take my life back. I exhaled slowly, shaking my head. No more. She wasn't worth my anger. She wasn't worth my pain. And she sure as hell wasn't worth another second of my life. I picked up my phone and blocked her number. Then I put the car in drive, pulled onto the highway, and left Emily behind for good. The next morning, I woke up in a cheap motel on the edge of town. The kind of place no one asks questions. The sheets were stiff. The air smelled like old cigarettes, and the tiny TV in the corner flickered with static. But for the first time in years, I woke up without dread sitting on my chest. I stared at the ceiling, letting the past 24 hours settle in. The weight of it, the finality. Emily was gone. Not physically, no. She was probably still blowing up my phone, cursing my name, spinning her lies, but mentally, emotionally, she had no power over me anymore. I checked my phone. 37 missed calls. Over 50 texts. The first few were angry. "You're overreacting. You're acting like a damn child." Then, when I didn't respond, they turned sweet. "Can we talk? Please. I miss you." I didn't mean it. And then, when she realized I wasn't falling for it, pure desperation. "If you don't answer me, I swear I'll." I didn't bother reading the rest. Blocked. I sat on the edge of the bed, running a hand down my face. Everything in my life had changed in the span of a night. I should have felt lost. But I didn't. I felt free. I showered, changed, and walked outside, letting the crisp morning air clear my head. I had no idea what came next, where I was going, what I was supposed to do with this new, unexpected version of my life. But I knew one thing. I'd spent years waiting for Emily to love me again, waiting for her to care, waiting for her to look at me the way she used to, and she never did. Now, she could keep waiting. I checked out of the motel and drove without a real plan. No destination, no timeline. Just miles of road stretching ahead of me, open and endless. Felt good. For the first time in years, I didn't have to check in, didn't have to explain myself, didn't have to walk on eggshells around a woman who had made it very clear she couldn't stand me. The irony wasn't lost on me. Emily spent all that time acting like I was some burden, like I was lucky she still stuck around. Meanwhile, she was the dead weight. And now I was lighter. At a red light, I glanced at my phone. A few more messages had come through before I blocked her. "At least come home so we can talk. You're being ridiculous. If you leave me, you'll regret it." That one made me laugh. Regret it? I regretted wasting years of my life thinking she was my forever. I regretted every night I lay awake wondering why she didn't touch me anymore, why she didn't look at me like she used to. I regretted believing her lies every time she said she was just too tired, when in reality, she was out giving herself to someone else. But leaving her? That was the first thing I'd done right in a long time. I tossed my phone onto the passenger seat and kept driving. By noon, I stopped at a roadside diner, the kind with peeling booths, strong coffee, and the smell of greasy food hanging thick in the air. I sat at the counter, ordered a black coffee, and just breathed. No nagging texts, no tension waiting at home, no resentment lingering in every conversation. It was the simplest thing, really, just sitting there drinking a damn cup of coffee. But it felt good. Halfway through my second cup, I noticed my wedding ring. My thumb absent-mindedly traced the metal, a habit I didn't even realize I had. I twisted it once, twice, then I pulled it off and set it on the counter. Just like that, it was over. Emily probably thought I'd come crawling back, that I'd sit in some miserable apartment, drinking myself half to death, waiting for her to show up and throw me some pathetic excuse about how it wasn't what it looked like. She had no idea who she was dealing with anymore. I finished my coffee, left a tip, and walked out, leaving the ring behind on the counter. A fresh start, clean break, and for the first time in a long time I was finally free. I drove for hours, letting the road unravel behind me. No Emily, no fights, no cold silences, just me alone, finally in control of my own life. At some point, I stopped at a gas station. The air smelled like diesel and burnt coffee, the kind of place where people passed through and never looked back. I leaned against my car, staring at the horizon. Emily was probably losing her mind by now, spinning stories, making herself the victim, calling our mutual friends, maybe even trying to convince herself she wasn't the bad guy. But it didn't matter, because I wasn't there anymore. I wasn't her punching bag, her backup plan, her pathetic little husband who she thought would never leave. She underestimated me, and now she'd have to live with the consequences. I checked my phone one last time. No missed calls, no texts, because I had cut her out like a disease. I took a deep breath, slid my phone into my pocket, and got back in the car. Where was I going? Anywhere but back. I pulled onto the highway, my hands steady on the wheel. The past was behind me, shrinking in the rearview mirror. And for the first time in a long, long time, the future was mine. The city faded behind me, mile by mile. With every passing town, every gas station, every nameless road, I felt it, the weight lifting. I didn't know where I was going, and for once in my life I didn't care. Emily was nothing more than a bad chapter in a book I was finally closing. She'd wake up today, tomorrow, next week, and realize she lost the one person who actually gave a damn about her. And me? I wasn't going to waste another second thinking about her. I pulled off at a quiet stretch of highway and parked near a lookout point. The sun was setting, painting the sky in streaks of orange and violet. I stepped out, leaning against the hood of my car, breathing in the crisp evening air. No fighting, no guilt, no walking on eggshells in my own home. I was free. I reached into my pocket, feeling something cold against my fingers. My wedding ring. I thought I left it at the diner, but I must have grabbed it out of habit. It sat in my palm, small and meaningless, a reminder of the man I used to be, the man who begged for love from a woman who didn't deserve him. I rolled the ring between my fingers one last time. Then, without hesitation, I pulled my arm back and threw it as far as I could. It disappeared into the trees, swallowed by the vastness of the world ahead of me. And just like that, the last piece of Emily was gone. I climbed back into my car, started the engine, and hit the gas. No more regrets. No more waiting for someone to choose me. The past was dead. And for the first time in years, I was finally alive.